Halo used to have over 1 million players online at the same time, yet almost 20 years later, and its recent installment struggles to reach the thousands. Things have gotten so bad, the developers in charge went and changed their name. However, there may be a way to come back from all this with just 3 simple steps, but before that, how did we get to this point? Halo first launched in 2001 with Combat Evolved, where it revolutionized console gaming. You were immersed in this intense and fun sandbox, fighting the Covenant as a super soldier. This game was received unbelievably well, so what did Bungie do? Well, they followed the same guidelines. Let's give gamers what they had before, but better. In just 3 years after Combat Evolved, they launched Halo 2. Once again, this revolutionized the entire gaming landscape. This was the reason people had an Xbox, and more importantly, Xbox Live. For the first time ever in Halo, you could join up matchmaking and play against strangers from across the globe. Try and rank up alongside your friends with the new ranking system, 1 to 50. Again, Bungie had a hit. These games they were releasing, they were breaking records each time. So what better way to follow up Halo 2 than by following the same exact formula and innovating on ways that made the game better.
Hurry! Pull back now! Have you saw another chance? Negative, sir. I think we lost him.
Not yet.
Halo 3. You didn't just play Halo 3, you experienced Halo 3. It launched with 5 different modes, tons of different playlists, and of course taking Halo 2's 1 to 50 ranking system that people loved and made it better. Their time with Halo was coming to an end though, and they wanted to move on to different projects. However, they had to fulfill their deal with Microsoft and put out 2 more games. First was Halo 3 ODST. It was an extension of Halo 3 that brought an incredible campaign and new mode called Firefight. Then Halo Reach. But Reach, it was different, and it's where many people say the beginning of the downfall happened with Halo. It was a class-based system with options of sprint, jetpack, decoy, active camo, and what was most hated, armor lock. While these features didn't necessarily land too well, the game still felt like Halo. The progression system, it was for some reason also different. Gone was 1 to 50, and in place was a credit system where you earn credits for playing and can purchase armor with those credits. Regardless, looking back on Reach, nowadays it's considered a classic. So, if Bungie's different Halo game was still loved by fans, why aren't 343's? Well, let's break down the beginning and potential end of 343. Why is 343 so hated? 343 Industries was founded in 2007 by Microsoft as an internal studio to manage the Halo franchise following Bungie's departure. Microsoft realized the huge value in the Halo IP. They knew this fanbase had been dedicated to our guy Chief for over a decade, and who better than 343? A company named in reference to 343 Guilty Spark, a character who betrays Master Chief in the trilogy. There was one issue though. Bungie didn't leave them much to work with. 343 had to rebuild all of their internal tools from scratch, meaning they had to recreate things like AI behavior, physics, and multiplayer systems all leading up to their first mainline game. It sounds overwhelming, so they started off small. The first project they released was an anniversary edition of Halo Combat Evolved, the game that kickstarted our love for this series. It had updated graphics, Xbox Live co-op, and even some teases for Halo 4. Yet despite this game seeming to be an easy slam dunk, it got mixed reviews from the fans. They didn't give it any multiplayer that was missing from the original, and the campaign's overhauled graphics were either hit or miss. Music and sound effects were also remastered, which just didn't live up to the classic game. Regardless, we cut them a break because it's all about what they're gonna show us they're capable of in their first big project, Halo 4. Yet for some, it was their last project, as this game turned a lot of classic fans away from the series they held so close to their heart. When we spoke about Bungie, they followed the same format for each game. It was a recipe, and a recipe that people had been coming back for years. However, now, they ordered the same thing, but it was entirely different. The graphics were overhauled with Chief wearing new armor, the environments were different, hell, the entire campaign was different. Chief was more so silent in the original games. He had spoken very few words, which meant they carried more weight as he'd fight on through the Covenant. But in Halo 4, Chief had quite a bit of dialogue and a deeper emotional arc arc with Cortana, all while he fought the Prometheans. Gone were the Covenant, and instead this new and annoying to fight enemies. The campaign had mixed reviews to say the least, but okay, that's fine. The majority of people who spent years on Halo spent that in multiplayer. That's what gets us to keep coming back, but not this one. You see, in the original games, everyone loved it because the matches were fair. Everyone started off the game with the same exact weapons and loadout. You fought each other to get power weapons and gain map control, but not in Halo 4. For the first time ever, 343 introduced us to classes. Now you can make your loadout whatever you want. In Reach, Sprint was an ability just like Armor Lock and the Jetpack. You couldn't have both. Yet in Halo 4, Sprint was the new feature, enabled by default. Additionally, in your loadout, you could select an armor ability. If you didn't like your loadout, don't worry, you could call in an ordnance drop.
Ordnance ready. Request confirmed.
Essentially like a kill streak from Call of Duty that comes in and drops you an overpowered weapon, which, speaking of Call of Duty, this was the first time we'd seen the Halo franchise try and copy someone else, chasing a trend instead of setting it. Did we have 1 to 50 in this game? No. Well, what about the Reach progression system? We absolutely loved 1 to 50 and weren't sure why it was even changed to begin with. Although, we did understand that Reach was a prequel to the Chief story, so maybe it fit to have that credit system. Halo 4 had neither. Instead, it was a Call of Duty-like experience-based system. The more you played, win or lose, you ranked up and you could get new perks. There was no way of measuring a player's skill, as there wasn't even a skill-based ranking system. The worst part, they knew people didn't like this, and time after the game was already dying out, they added 1 to 50. Except, it was only available to see in the Halo Waypoint app, trying to bait us all in for their own good. They knew what people wanted, and just didn't do the right thing. Halo 4 died out a lot faster than any other Halo game previously, but we still held out hope for this company. All they needed was to listen to what we wanted. The blueprint is in the previous games that worked. Halo fans understood that the series needed to evolve, and that's just natural in the world of gaming. However, this wasn't an evolution. This was changing things for the sake of changing things, and we made it clear that we did not like it. Yet all the hating on Halo 4 came to a stop when they announced this. This could be it. This has the chance to not only be the best thing 343 has put out, but the best thing any developer had put out ever. I mean, it's literally just a collection of the best games ever, so how could it fail? We all got the game at midnight, booted it up, ready to relive the best days of our lives until...
The more I look at this, the more I get confused. $find game. Text at the bottom left. Apparently I'm trying to search for a multiplayer lobby on the Pillar of Autumn, a single player level of Halo 1.
It's been 20 minutes. 20 minutes of searching. Nothing. Not a single match. You gotta be f***ing kidding me.
The Master Chief Collection was arguably the biggest disaster of a game launch. Granted, it finally gave us 1 to 50 back using Halo 2's system, but you didn't even get to experience it because you could not find a match. If you were lucky enough to be able to, it would probably have taken you in upwards of 30 minutes. Teams were unbalanced, matches would glitch out, players would get booted, and hell, you'd get a temporary 5-minute ban if you quit. So many things in this game didn't work, and us classic fans felt left behind yet again.
Best thing we could get. And my game froze.
This was supposed to be our game, our hangout spot for those classic memories. Again, we brushed it off because hey, 343 outsourced these games. Sure, they failed as a developer to get the game in a decent spot until quite literally years after that, but whatever. It was for a good reason, right? Because they were working on their next game which would correct what we didn't like in Halo 4, right? Sadly, not in the slightest. But here's where it gets a little muddy. There are some people, even classic fans, who say Halo 5 was great. Then there's fans on the other side who thinks it's the worst Halo out. However, let's dive into the game as a whole, as it launched 3 years after Halo 4. After that game, you'd think they'd learn some lessons. Classic fans who built this franchise don't like these crazy features. We like simplicity, a good ranking and progression system, and having some fun with friends. Yet this game was far from the classic experience. Gameplay was so different, introducing features like a thrust, the ability to clamber, stabilize mid-air by scoping your gun, ground pound, and now you can even scope in with any weapon. It made the game a lot faster, but it was too much. Why take a simple game and overcomplicate it when nobody asked? Not to mention, the campaign is said to be the worst Halo campaign in the series. Instead of playing as Master Chief, the missions were split between him and another Spartan who we'd never met, named Locke. He was Hunting Chief, you know, the guy who'd been a hero for literally all of our lives. So here we were yet again, fighting these boring Prometheans and, for some reason, Master Chief. Although the issues of this game were deeper than all of these, and it falls entirely on 343. This game didn't have split screen nor campaign co-op for the first time in the franchise ever. A staple feature, might I add. Playlists in multiplayer were lackluster, with a ton of fan favorites missing. Forge was delayed, which was crazy because it literally launched for the first time ever in Halo 3 flawlessly. And again, for the first time ever in the Halo series, we were introduced to microtransactions. Combine this with the fact they did nothing to cater to the pre-existing fans of the series, it's no surprise that yet again, the numbers rapidly dropped. With those numbers, people lost more and more faith. It was pretty obvious by this point. 343 had no interest in doing right by the people who not only supported Halo from the start, but stuck by 343 through all of these awful moments. They didn't want to do right by us. It was almost like they wanted us to forget what we had, forget what we loved, and instead support their new vision for Halo. But the thing is, Halo wasn't Bungie's. It wasn't 343's. It was ours, the whole community. In an interview, the creator of Halo's multiplayer stated that Halo first started as a party game. That was its initial intent.
We tried something completely new, which is this party system. You and your friends kind of combine together, so you can jump from game to game to game to game, and you and your friends will always be together.
A game you could boot up with friends and hang out, fight some people, win matches, and have fun. All 3 games in the trilogy stuck by this rule and had so many features that supported it. Remember these as we get to 343's latest game, as it's something they completely forgot about that's going to be their downfall. Let's look at Halo 3 for example. Immediately as you get in the game, you could press Y, one button, and view your friends list. Easily invite whoever you wanted to the game, where you could press one button yet again and see their service record. Were they good? Were they bad? Either way, it didn't matter because you had 1 to 50, the greatest ranking system that made it fun to play with your friend even if they did suck.
Yes! Fucking best day of my fucking life. First 50.
As you load into a match, you and your team could talk and see if you want to veto the map, maybe get a new one if you didn't like the current one. However, you better choose wisely because if you lost, you're thrown into a post-game lobby with the enemy team where you can either trash talk or say good game.
Way to go, tryhards. You're not good. You have a 55 star, yet you still run Dino.
If you liked your teammates or maybe had a good conversation, that post-game lobby allowed you to click one button yet again and you're partied up with them. Instantly, not only are they on your team, but you're back searching again. Just like that, you probably made a new lifelong friend. Now you can go grind to get that 50 or hey, even kick back and just chill in some social playlists. Looking back on it now, it's crazy to think how good we had it, yet we all thought we were gonna somehow get that back when 343 revealed Halo Infinite. That was the Chief we knew. He looked like how he used to and the graphics looked amazing. Even the gameplay looked amazing, and it was. It truly felt like the evolution of what Halo 3's gameplay was. There were some funky items like the grapple shot, but in this game, it worked. Could this really be it? The comeback of Halo and potential redemption of 343 Industries? Unfortunately, no, and we felt betrayed yet again. They got everything right with the gameplay, but when they launched the multiplayer, there were only a few maps, making every playlist feel repetitive. Not to mention, there were only 3 playlists. Remember how many Halo 3 had? Crazy enough, this is only the tip of the iceberg. This introduced the Battle Pass into Halo for the first time ever. In theory, it really could be cool, but guess what? This was the only way to rank up. There was no progression system at all. Literally none. It was only to build up your battle pass, which, hey, you could spend the $20 and get max tier, so then you'd be done for that season. So barely any maps, barely any modes, and no way to level up. Why would you want to keep playing this game? Well, most didn't. In Halo 5, they adopted the CSR ranking system, where you play 5 games, get your placement division, and level up from there. This system was back in Halo Infinite, which many classic fans argue that it's simply not as rewarding and not as fun. However, Halo Infinite was drowned in issues that this didn't even really matter. Forge wasn't added until the winter update a year after the game's release. The campaign got delayed a ridiculously long time, and not to mention, it had tons of cut content for what could have been an incredible story. Despite taking 6 years to develop, the game felt rushed. And for us old school fans, we felt, betrayed. Halo Reach began the downfall, Halo 4 continued it, Halo 5 innovated on features that didn't work. But Halo Infinite fixed a lot of it, but got every single other thing wrong. Let me quickly rattle off the things 343 removed from their games that we had in classic Halo. Dual wielding, a pre-game lobby, a post-game lobby, map vetoing, playable elites, hell, even customizing the color of your Spartan. You now need to pay for colors. How did they get it so wrong when we've been telling them for years exactly what we want? The thing that confuses the community the most is Halo 3 was a record-breaking game. It went on for so many years, having millions playing each day. Hell, even 1 million on at one time. Nothing in this game necessarily needed changing, and yeah, you could argue Reach changed a bit, yet the gameplay was still fine. Truly, the only thing they changed was removing 1 to 50. The social aspect of Halo was still there. Pre- and post-game lobbies and your rank shown on your account so everyone can see the time you put in. Why did they change so much after Bungie left? And instead of going back when everyone and the numbers showed that they didn't like it, they pushed harder to change more. Then they finally get it right after years of slapping us in the face, and we get an unfinished game that just gets repetitive. After years of updates, the game is in a much better space. I mean, it took them until Season 4, which was 1 year, 6 months, and 12 days since the game launched, but a progression system was added. Sadly, even this is repetitive. You go through the same exact ranks, just in different colored tiers. Ask yourself, how much different does Silver and Platinum look? Halo had went from creating the trends to following the trends, and whether or not it's 343 that just doesn't care, or maybe not having enough resources, the fact is, they're failing us. They have not given the core audience, which are the classic fans who've been craving something resembling the product we once loved, a sliver of what we want. Somehow, there are quite a bit of 343 defenders out there who maybe only know games like Halo 4 and on. So, they always think it's nostalgia when we say the older games are better. However, after Halo Infinite, 343 got so much backlash even from the 343 fans that they were forced to change their name to Halo Studios. The reputation of 343 Industries was so tainted, nobody wanted to be associated with it. So the question of this all is, what can Halo Studios do right in the next game to win people back? Halo needs 1 to 50. As we see nowadays, the franchise does not take risks anymore. They do what works for other games, which is the CSR system. Matchmaking used to be unique in the way it did their ranks, and it was loved. So why not go back to that and let us display the big bold 50 across our profile? In Halo Infinite today, you can't even view another person's rank unless you go through a bunch of clicking to get to that specific screen. It's nowhere in the lobby, and even if you do find it, it's super buggy and glitchy and doesn't show the right rank most of the time. Let us have the ability to click a button and see another person's stats. You will never know who you're going up against, which brings me to the next thing that they need to do: lobbies. Pre-game and post-game lobbies created such an interesting and social atmosphere for Halo. You'd meet friends, you'd make enemies, but it was all in good faith. Sometimes Halo used to feel like a hangout spot, but nowadays, it's gone. You aren't put into a pre-game lobby, you're thrown right into the game, which, like I said, means no map voting. After the game, there's no hanging around to trash talk or say good game, you're put in your own lobby, all by yourself. It's why these newer games feel so isolated. Compare that to the older games that feel like you had a party going on every single night. And lastly, launch and completion. Again, Halo follows the trends of live service games. This gives them an excuse to put out their games and drip feed content over time. Clearly this hasn't worked, with so many players having left. Yet if those same players played the game how it is now, it feels entirely different. Rely less on the fear of missing out to get players to play your game, and instead, put out a good game that makes us want to come back. If you do that, I promise you, we will.